6,000 years ago, while most of humanity still hunted and gathered, a group of people in the marshlands of modern-day Iraq did the impossible. They stopped wandering. They tamed the unpredictable rivers. They built. This is the story of the Sumerians, the architects of the very first civilization. They gave us the wheel, the hour, the minute, and the first written words. But this video is not just about their rise, it is about their silence. How the world's first great metropolis rose from the mud, and how it was destroyed by the very forces that created it. Our story begins in the mists of time, around 4500 BC. The Sumerian king list tells us, when kingship was lowered from heaven, the kingship was in Eridu. Eridu is widely considered the oldest city in history, but it was the city of Uruk that would become the first true superpower. Imagine a city of 50,000 people when the global average was a tribe of 20. Uruk was a marvel of mud brick architecture towering over the flat plains. It was protected by 6 miles of massive walls built by the legendary King Gilgamesh. Inside, it was a bustling engine of innovation and commerce. They invented the potter's wheel, allowing for mass production of goods. They built a complex system of canals to irrigate the desert. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers were their lifeblood, turned into fertile fields. But managing this complex society required a new invention. You cannot run a city of thousands without records, so the Sumerians invented writing. Cuneiform, wedges pressed into wet clay, baking in the hot sun. For the first time, human thoughts, laws, and receipts could outlive the human body. History actually begins here. Everything before this is just prehistory. They tracked the stars, mapping the heavens with incredible math. They divided the day into 24 hours and the hour into 60 minutes. Every time you look at a clock, you are using Sumerian math. Society was ordered, structured, and seemingly unstoppable. At the top sat the Lugal, the big man, the king. But the real rulers of Sumer were the gods, Anu, Enlil, Enki. To honor them, they built mountains of mud brick called ziggurats. These were not tombs like the pyramids, they were waiting rooms for the divine. The priests controlled the surplus grain, the economy, and the people's faith. They believed their city belonged to the god, and they were just the servants. For 1,000 years, this system worked. Sumer flourished. City-states like Ur, Lagash, and Nippur rose to prominence, but the seeds of their destruction were planted in the very soil they farmed, and the rivers that gave them life were about to become their enemy. The first great crisis of civilization was beginning to take root. The Sumerian miracle relied on intensive irrigation, but in the hot sun, the water evaporated, leaving behind tiny traces of salt. Year after year, century after century, the salt built up in the soil. This process is called salinization. It is a slow, invisible killer. The wheat crop began to fail. The land was turning white with salt. Records show a desperate shift from wheat to the more salt-tolerant barley. But even the barley began to die. The yields plummeted. The Fertile Crescent was becoming a toxic wasteland. As food became scarce, the cooperation between cities vanished. Neighbors became enemies. The age of the city-state wars had begun. The cities of Umma and Lagash fought a brutal war for 100 years, not for gold or glory, but for the most precious resource, water and arable land. The stele of the vultures depicts the grim reality of this era. Phalanxes of soldiers with spears trampling over the bodies of their enemies. The Sumerians had invented civilization, and now they had invented organized warfare. Walls grew higher, temples were looted, the people suffered. Weakened by hunger and constant civil war, they were vulnerable. And to the north, a new power was rising, watching the Sumerians bleed. The Akkadians, led by a man of lowly birth who became a legend. Sargon of Akkad, the world's first emperor. Around 3334 BC, Sargon swept down from the north. His armies were disciplined, using composite bows to devastate the Sumerian infantry. One by one, the ancient cities of Sumer fell to the Akkadians. Sargon tore down their walls and installed his own governors. For the first time, Sumer was not a collection of free cities, but a subject province. The Akkadian language began to replace Sumerian in daily life. But the Akkadian Empire itself was short-lived, destroyed by drought and the Gutians. The Gutians were barbarians from the Zagros Mountains who knew nothing of city life. Under their rule, the irrigation canals silted up and famine returned. It seemed the sun had set on Sumer, but the Sumerians had one final act left in them, a glorious Neo-Sumerian Renaissance led by the city of Ur. King Ur-Nammu drove out the barbarians and united the land once more. He built the great ziggurat of Ur, a mountain of brick that still stands today. He wrote the first code of law centuries before Hammurabi. It was a golden Indian summer for the civilization, but it was a fragile revival built on dying soil. The population was too high, the land was too weak, and from the east, a new and deadly storm was gathering. The Elamites were coming, and this time there would be no recovery. The year is approximately 2004 BC. The third dynasty of Ur is collapsing. The economy is in ruins. The price of grain has skyrocketed 60 times over. The Amorites, nomads from the west, are raiding the countryside. They built a massive wall to keep the nomads out, but it failed. The city of Ur, the last capital of Sumer, is under siege. Inside the walls, the people are starving. The gods seem silent. King Ibi-Sin, the last Sumerian ruler, waits for help that will never come. His betrayal comes from his own generals who defect to the enemy. The Elamites, rivals from modern-day Iran, breach the defenses. They pour into the city of Ur, unleashing a holocaust. The magnificent city, the jewel of the ancient world, is sacked. The great ziggurat is desecrated. The palaces are burned. The scribes recorded the horror in a text known as the Lament for Ur. It reads, "Ur is destroyed, bitter is its lament. The country's blood now fills its holes like metal in a mold." Bodies lay piled in the gates. The heads of the people lay like pottery shards. The last king, Ibi-Sin, was dragged away in chains to Elam. The smoke of the burning city could be seen for miles across the flat plain. It was not just the fall of a city, it was the death of a people. The Sumerian political entity ceased to exist forever. The survivors were absorbed by the Amorites and the Babylonians. The most tragic loss was the Sumerian language itself. Once the language of kings and gods, it became a dead tongue. It was taught in schools for a while, like Latin, but no one spoke it at home. Eventually, even the knowledge of how to read the cuneiform tablets was lost. The history of the first cities was buried under the shifting sands of Iraq. For 2,000 years, the world completely forgot the Sumerians existed. We knew of Babylon and Assyria from the Bible, but Sumer was a ghost. Until the 19th century, when archaeologists dug into the strange mounds in the desert. They found the tablets. They deciphered the code. And suddenly, the first chapter of human history was restored. The Sumerians did not vanish because of aliens or magic. They fell because of climate change, soil degradation, and endless war. A warning from the past that feels incredibly relevant today. But their legacy is indestructible. Every time we write a sentence, check the time, or roll a wheel, we are using Sumerian tools. They were the first to build, the first to write, and the first to fall. The city of Eridu is now just a dusty mound in a dry desert, but the spark they lit 6,000 years ago has never gone out. We are all, in a way, the children of Sumer.